Hey, Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I don't know if you've heard, but Mint's premium wireless is $15 a month. But I'd like to offer one other perk. We have no stores. That means no small talk. Crazy weather we're having. No, it's not. It's just weather. It is an introvert's dream. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan. $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
This episode is brought to you by Paranormal Playback, a new podcast where hosts Shar, Mel and Laura recap the spooky and entertaining world of paranormal reality TV. Each week they take a fresh look at popular shows like Ghost Adventures and Kindred Spirits, blending humour with insight as they pull apart what's happening on screen. The three of them are a mix of believers and skeptics, which makes for really fun conversations, sometimes leaning into mystery, other times asking the questions viewers might be thinking themselves. With their background in creative production, they know how these shows are put together, so they're great at pointing out the moments that feel real versus the ones that might be more for the cameras. And their segment, This Old Haunt, digs into the true crime side of paranormal investigations, separating fact from fiction. With Halloween coming up, it's the perfect time to add something spooky, funny and a little addictive to your playlist. For even more spooky, ghostly, paranormal content with a humorous spin, go check out Paranormal Playback. Welcome back to another episode of Scary. I'm your host Will, and each week I narrate your paranormal experiences. And if you have a paranormal experience that you would like me to narrate on the show, you can send it to scaryaparanormalpodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to hit that follow button so you don't miss any future episodes. Now, let's get into our next paranormal encounter. Do you ever have one of those stretches in life where nothing seems to go right? Like, no matter what you do, things just keep falling apart around you. That was me a few years ago, when I was living in an old share house in a quiet town in the UK. At the time I was in my early 30s, working a steady but uninspiring job and spending my free time on my passion, drawing. My experience started small. First, my laptop, which had been working fine for months and was relatively new, suddenly refused to turn on one morning, right before an important deadline. My bank account, random charges I didn't recognise, and the bank had no idea where they came from. It took them months to figure out what was exactly going on. My health, I caught every bug going around, one after another. And then there was my social life. Friends cancelling plans at last minute, missed communications at work. Just this general sense that things were off, but not exactly paranormal. Everyone goes through rough patches. After a while it became apparent that it wasn't just bad luck. It was more of a feeling that I had, a weight that had crept into my life slowly, making everything feel heavy and stuck. I remember finding myself dreading coming home. Even though my housemates were great people, the house itself, though, I guess you could say had a character. You know, those slightly creaky old places that always feel a few degrees colder than what they should be. Even with the heating cranked up, it was one of those houses. One night while I was in the house on my own, I was sitting in the sitting room doing some drawing when something strange happened. I don't know about you, but do you ever get that high-pitched noise in your ear all of a sudden? Feels like somebody has put some frequency device, shoved it right up to your eardrum and just blasted it up to the highest volume. Well, that's what happened first. And after that, the air felt thick, almost charged, like the way it does just before a thunderstorm. While all this was happening, I noticed that my desk lamp was flickering. A flickering that slowly turned into this dimming down to what looked like it was barely even on, and then would slowly get brighter and brighter and brighter again until it was back to what it was supposed to be. And then it would repeat, which of course would have been fine if it was on a dimmer switch. However, this desk lamp didn't have a dimmer switch. I remember being in a bit of a trance watching this desk light going from low to high when I heard a tap, just a single loud tap, deliberate, on the wall behind me. For a moment I forgot that I was actually alone in the house and turned around quickly to think that one of my housemates was behind me messing with me. But there was nobody, and then I realised I was here on my own. But it was a definite, loud tap. It was all very strange, but not exactly something that would leave you running into the neighbourhood screaming. I've finished up my drawing and had a relaxing evening. It was around this time that I noticed that small things at first, keys, were not where I left them. And the lights were now flickering in patterns that almost felt intentional. That lingering uneasy feeling of being watched was becoming more and more prevalent in the house. Like as if it was always just at the edge of my awareness. It wasn't until weeks later that I started to put all these pieces together. That sense of dread, this streak of bad luck. It was slowly becoming obvious that it wasn't just coincidence. Something had changed. Something had followed me home, and I had no idea what it wanted. One night I remember waking up and having the immediate feeling that there was another presence in the room with me. When I managed to find the light switch and turn on the light, of course, there was nothing in the room. I've never had something like that happen to me before. Even when I've had a nightmare in the past, I've never woke up thinking that there was somebody in the room with me. A day or two after that happened, one evening I was sitting at my desk doing some drawing when I heard a very soft sound. At first I thought maybe it was the wind outside, but when I realised it was coming from inside the room, I sat and listened carefully. The sound didn't seem to be exactly words, more like a low murmur of somebody talking just out of reach. I couldn't really pinpoint where this sound was coming from. I'd move around the different corners of the room, but it never really seemed to get any louder. And I couldn't tell if it was coming from the left or the right or up or down. And after a while it just stopped. That night, something even stranger happened to me. I woke up at exactly 3:30 a.m. My heart was pounding in my chest. I must have been having some sort of nightmare that I couldn't recall. Probably stress from all these weird things that seem to be happening to me lately. Once again, I instinctively knew that I wasn't alone in the room. That feeling again. I couldn't see anything, but then I heard a very faint scratching sound coming from the corner of the room near my closet. That was the reason why I had woke up. I remember sitting up slowly in the darkness, staying on the bed listening to this sound. This scrape, 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 like nails on wood. I immediately thought, great, we have a rat or a mouse and it's in my wardrobe. So I got up, went over to the wardrobe. The closer I got, the more commotion I could hear coming from it. It was clearly after knocking over some things. It was quite loud. But when I opened the doors of the wardrobe, there was nothing there. No mouse, no rat. Everything was where it was. I turned on the overhead light, had a good look around. There was no droppings. It was a mystery. Pulled out stuff, couldn't find anything. I even set a trap in that room, and I never caught anything. For context, the wardrobe itself had 2 heavy doors that were made of solid wood, and when you closed them, they closed very snugly. And when you would open them, you would have to apply a little bit of force just to get the door to move. The next morning, even though I had definitely closed both doors, one of the doors was open. I definitely noted that in my head as being something very strange, because those doors don't swing open themselves. Even if you were to leave it slightly ajar by mistake, it wouldn't move. My string of bad luck continued. That week, I had lost my phone and my bike was stolen. In the house, other things were happening. Our bathroom light would flicker every time I walked in, and no one else was experiencing that. My phone alarm would go off at odd hours, at times that I had not set. And when I go to check if there was an actual alarm there was no alarm set. And then these cold spots seemed to be popping up everywhere. I walked through the hallway and suddenly feel this icy draft even though all the windows were closed. Our weather at the time was relatively mild, and it was July. My housemates started noticing too, joking about the house being haunted. But to me it didn't feel like a joke, because I felt like I was being singled out. I remember one evening I was getting ready for bed, and I caught a glimpse of something strange in the mirror in my bedroom. Just for a second, a shadow standing right behind me. When I turned, there was nothing there, but it definitely made my heart race. And for the first time I really started to wonder, what the hell is going on? What am I after bringing into my life? The unease never really left me after that. It was anxiety, I guess. If anything, things seemed to be getting worse, more persistent. And I started to notice a pattern. These strange occurrences weren't random. They happened at specific times, often when I was alone or distracted. It was like whatever this thing was wanted my attention. One evening while I was cooking dinner, I heard footsteps upstairs. Really heavy, deliberate footsteps pacing back and forth across the landing. I called out thinking one of my housemates had come in without me realising that they had. But there was no answer. And when I went to check, the hallway was empty. But it was absolutely freezing upstairs. And I stood there for a moment, listening to see if I could hear those footsteps. But the sound was gone. Around that time, I started to catch movement in my peripheral vision. A flicker of a shadow darting across the wall, gone before I could fully register it. They really, really frightened me because I could see these shadows in my peripheral vision, and they would slowly be getting closer and closer to me, and when I would turn my head to see, expecting them to be right beside me, there would be nothing. Sometimes these shadows would really quickly approach me, just stand right there, and then just in a flash go. Really intimidating. This seemed to be coupled with tapping, which had become more frequent, always the same pattern, 4 deliberate taps. It happened in different rooms at different times, but always when I was alone. My housemates never heard any tapping, which was very, very infuriating. I tested it once, tapping back, and for a moment there was nothing, like as if it wasn't expecting me to communicate in that way. And then it responded with 3 taps, and I'd do it again, and it would respond with 2 taps, and then stop. One night I was lying on my bed scrolling on my phone. Out of nowhere, my mattress dipped beside me as if someone or something had sat down on it. That was terrifying. So strange to witness something like that. To see your bed actually dip down and no one physically be there, and you feeling the mattress taking weight, is so mind-boggling. Whatever was there seemed to stay for just a few moments, then got up, the bed returned to normal, and then nothing for the rest of the night. It was really, really weird. During all this, my sleep had become horrendous. I was getting about 4 hours sleep each night. It was pretty rough. I was exhausted. I'd wake up in these cold sweats and then find it really hard to get back to sleep. One night we decided to watch a film in the house, so we all curled up on the sofa with some snacks. I realised that my phone battery was getting quite low and my charger was in my bedroom, so I quickly bolted upstairs to get the charger and bring it back downstairs. As I turned and came back down the stairs, I looked up and saw this dark figure of what looked to be a woman standing just outside the living room door, as if they were eavesdropping on the conversation that was happening between my housemates inside. And then they just faded into nothing. It was terrifying. I told my housemates, who kind of believed me actually at the time, and we had a look around the house and they were quizzing me. Oh my gosh, what did they look like? That's so strange, what's going on? I couldn't even focus on the film for the rest of the night, because what the hell had I witnessed? Was I delirious from lack of sleep? But I knew it wasn't that, because there was so many weird things that were happening in the house. I knew that there was something paranormal going on. There was something after attaching itself to the house or me. A couple of days later, my housemate's mother arrived over. She'd never been at the house before, and I happened to be there whenever she arrived. It was very strange. I had never met her before. I knew from conversations I had had with my housemate that they weren't exactly close, but her mother at the time had been desperately trying to build some sort of relationship with her, so she had come over to invite her out for lunch. When she walked into the house, it was apparent that she was, I want to say, a little bit eccentric. Maybe that's the wrong choice of word, but she wasn't your everyday person, let's just say. She shook my hand, and the first words that came out of her mouth were, "You've got something attached to you." I slightly laughed it off and said, "What do you mean?" And she didn't answer right away. Instead, she slowly walked through the downstairs part of the house and paused at the foot of the stairs and said something that I didn't hear, and then turned back to me with a look that made my stomach drop. "It's been feeding off you." I said, "Feeding?" And she nodded and said, "Your energy, your mood, your luck, everything, it's draining you. You've been letting it." I really wanted to argue back with her and kind of be like, "Who the hell do you think you are?" But I knew deep down that she was right, that there was something going on. I said, "Oh, Cora's told you what's been going on in the house." And Cora piped up and said, "No, I didn't tell her anything." And then she said, "First you need to acknowledge that it's there. Denial just feeds it more. Then we cleanse, then you forget about it." And she said, "Don't worry, I have everything. I'll come over one of the nights next week and we'll just get rid of this." The following week she did as she said she would and came over, and watching her go from room to room with the sage and saying all these different phrases, "You're not welcome here." It felt really silly at first because she was insisting that we all join in, so we were doing it slightly laughing, and she scolded us for not saying it with meaning, so we tried to be a bit more serious. When we got to my bedroom door, she turned and said, "This is where it's the strongest." And I kind of nervously laughed because, again, I kind of knew that was the truth. And she, I want to say, saged the room. And after it was all done, we had some tea downstairs and she left not long after. Did the house feel different? No, not immediately anyway. That night I woke up at around 3 o'clock again and heard this tapping again, this time on my door, followed by scratches. Loud scratches this time. It was frightening. And I shouted out, "You are not welcome here. You need to leave now." And the scratches stopped. The tapping stopped. Oddly enough, I went back to bed like as if nothing had happened. And then everything seemed to return back to normal slowly. My bad luck seemed to ease up. Work seemed to get a bit smoother. The bank finally found where those weird charges were coming from and refunded me. And it was like as if the whole thing had never happened. As quickly as it all started, it was now all over. Not long after, I ended up getting a job in Liverpool, which meant I had to relocate. But it definitely was a very weird time in my life. I haven't experienced anything paranormal since. Thank you to Darren C for sending in your paranormal encounter. I just want to highlight that this has been a very difficult episode for me to record. My microphone disconnected from the laptop on multiple occasions, meaning I had to repeatedly record different sections. The electricity went off at one stage, but I'm hoping that is all a coincidence and there is nothing after attaching itself to me. If you enjoy these episodes and would like more, you can find some on our Patreon. The link is in this episode's show notes, where there is exclusive Patreon only scary episodes. You can also follow the podcast page on Instagram, and you can also join the Facebook group. You can find the links in this episode's show note as well. Also, don't forget to tell a friend about the show and spread the word, and join me next time for another episode of Scary.
You're invited to spend an evening on Fremont Avenue. For generations, this house has been home to soulful music, good food, and cutthroat card games. Saints and sinners. Unexpected laughs and unspoken truths. Good times, hard times, and of course, family. Always family. So pull up a chair and join us at Fremont Avenue, a world premiere play only at Arena Stage. Now in performances. Tickets at arenastage.org.